Jill Stein went on Fox News not this past weekend, but last weekend, and she spoke about foreign policy, and she served the hosts their asses on a platter.
The strongest military ever. Right now, that military is eating up 50% of our discretionary budget. Almost half of your income tax is going to support the military. And these wars that have not made us safer, in fact, they're making us less safe. Terrorism only keeps gaining more territory, becoming more strong and more vicious. So this is a failed policy. And unfortunately, Donald Trump doesn't really stand up to that. He calls for more of the same, though you're right. He doesn't have the track record of these devastating wars that Hillary actually does.
And is that what's going to defeat ISIS? Just a little bit more peace, maybe some jobs for them? What does a peace offensive do to defeat radical Islamic terrorists in the Middle East?
Well, first, let's remember we've spent $6 trillion. That's $75,000
I understand what's been
American
done. What's
household.
your plan?
So, well, I think it's important to be clear that more of a failed policy is not going to work. You cannot bomb terrorism out of existence. You have to starve it. You have to deprive it of weapons, and you have to deprive it of funding. So, unfortunately, our allies and arguably the CIA itself have played a role in providing arms, training, and funding. So we need to freeze the bank accounts. Hillary Clinton herself, as Secretary of State, identified the Saudis as still the major funder of terrorist enterprises around the world. So it's time to get clear with our allies that they need to help us fight terrorism, and that means to stop the funding, the training, and the armaments. Most of the arms supplied to the Middle East are actually coming from the U.S. and our allies. We just sold $100 billion worth of arms to the Saudis, who can then distribute them wherever they like. So we can shut down this war because it's our weapons that have enabled it to be fought.
When Fox News bobblehead talking points meet facts, Fox is definitely rethinking allowing Jill Stein on air now. They're definitely like, oh goodness, what did we do? She knows stuff. She knows stuff. This isn't like they're, when they have their token liberals on the panel, like Bob Beckel. Bob Beckel's like, well, we should ban all Muslims. I'm a liberal. But the liberal happens to always either not say shit and be very quiet or agree with the conservatives. Remember back when it was Hannity and Combs? Now, I actually like Alan Combs, so I'm being a little bit of a dick here, and his radio show is actually pretty good. So if you want to check it out, go check it out. He's pretty good. But when you put obnoxious asshole Hannity next to Combs, he just runs roughshod over him on everything. It's like, okay, your job is to be the pussy liberal, so shut the fuck up and take the abuse. They let Jill Stein on. She's like, here's what's not happening. That. Now, let me introduce you to the people's elbow, bitch, because I'm about to give you information and data and maybe even convince some of the clowns in the audience. So, first of all, I love how she brings up the actual amount of money we spend on military spending. She's like, okay, your guys' answer is more war. Hey, jackass, we spend over 50% of our discretionary budget on the military. How much more would you like? You want to spend 65%? 75%? Maybe all of it? At what point would you go, you know what? I think we're safe. We've already been at war for well over a decade. So what's your answer? Maybe 3 more decades, and then we'll finally be good. All right now. Because it's worked so well to this point. We've been at war this whole time, and the problem of jihadism is worse. There are more jihadists today than there were when we started. So objectively, what we've done has not worked. Same results as the drug war. So we do the war on drugs, spend $1 trillion, and now people are more likely to use drugs today. That's a failure by any way you measure it. Well, same thing with the war on terror, and Jill Stein is letting that be known. And then she goes, okay, look, you guys really want to have an effect on this. You really want to get serious about fighting terrorism and limiting it as much as we possibly can. There's a very simple answer to that. The United States can stop funding Islamists, jihadists, and Saudi Arabia, but I repeat myself. So Saudi Arabia is a Wahhabi government. Their ideology is the same as ISIS. They behead people for sorcery and witchcraft and drug smuggling. They say all atheists are terrorists. This is a draconian, backwards, ultra-conservative fundamentalist country. And we did just give them billions of dollars worth of weapons. Why would you do that? They're massacring civilians in Yemen. Why would you do that? Why would you let them do that? Why would you let them bomb schools and hospitals? Stop arming them. If you stop arming Saudi Arabia and you stop arming the Syrian rebels, because oftentimes some of the Syrian rebels we arm either are Islamists or jihadists, or we arm people who then go in there and give the weapons to the Islamists and jihadists. Well, if you just stopped arming them, well, that would solve a lot of the problem right there. Now, let me be clear. I have no problem giving aid to people who really deserve it. We just covered the story about how the Kurds liberated Manbij in Syria from ISIS. So if you want to give aid and help out the Kurds, I'm with you 100%. If you want to help out some Shia militias who we know for sure are not committing atrocities, well, no problem with that at all. But what the U.S. has done repeatedly and consistently is we funded the worst actors. We funded Saudi Arabia. We funded Islamists and jihadist rebels, even going back to Reagan when he armed the Mujahideen, who later became Al-Qaeda and the Taliban. There's a very easy way to stop terrorism. Stop arming terrorists. Stop funding terrorists. That's step number one. And also you could argue the stuff that we do, like the 90% civilian death rate with drones where we kill, people who are not jihadists and then therefore create more jihadists. Well, if we just nip that in the bud, by definition, you're limiting terrorism because you're stopping our terrorism. So that's another way to stop it. But yeah, she's destroying them. They have no answer. More wars, always answer. Always, always, always. Dude, don't get me wrong. Somebody's got to fight ISIS. I've described that a million times. But we've proven we can't do it effectively and efficiently, and we can't limit the problem and certainly can't defeat it. It's a guerrilla warfare. How did our fight against guerrilla warriors work out in Vietnam? Not too well, right? So why not let the Kurds do it? Why not let other people in the region do it? Because it's their direct fight. Tuscaloosa is not exactly threatened by ISIS right now. So yes, Jill Stein absolutely destroyed them. Their answer is always more war. Her answer is nuanced, intelligent, rational, and based on the facts. Well done, Jill Stein.